Older Redditors, what are some early warning signs of trouble that younger folks may not know about? Serious. If you say no, and their response is, "You do it if you really loved me," watch out. That sort of emotional manipulation is usually a bad sign. A good response, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't ask." If your company suddenly gets really excited about cross-training people and asks you to do an abnormal amount of tidying up your workspace, there are about to be layoffs. If your managers ask you to account for how you spend all your time or list all the tasks you do in your job, they are probably looking to restructure your department and there will likely be layoffs. Get your resume together and start looking immediately. If you go on an interview and something just does not feel right, listen to your gut. Don't chalk it up to your own nerves. You are picking up on something that is probably a problem with the job company, but can't fully articulate what it is. This happened to me several years ago. New manager came to the office to assess the department. She met with me, and instantly I got a "I do know like you" vibe. I told my boss I felt I was interviewing for my own job and probably didn't get the position. She laughed, then apologized profusely and tearfully when I got axed a month later. When your company gets a new CEO, Google him. Find out what he did with his former jobs. If his 3 last assignments were restructuring, it's going to happen a 4th time. I believe they call this a transformational CEO. Yeah, I learned something in college. If you feel unhappy because you are being stretched too thin and have no time for yourself, that's a sign that you need to practice saying no to things. When you think you need alcohol to sleep, soon it will be more and more, and, in truth, it really isn't helping you sleep, just pass out. I used to do this. When I finally realized how bad it got, I did a 30-day no drinking challenge. There are a few times a month where I'll get alcohol just to fall asleep, but it's much less than every night for me. I try not to do it at all anymore, but sometimes I get overwhelmed with stress and depression and just want a night to drink and be alone. Interruptions are a part of conversation, but if more of your sentences end with interruptions than periods, there might be a serious problem. Also, in the other direction, try not to interrupt. Listen. A coworker wonders why I am so quiet. I'm not. I've just stopped talking to him because I could never get a word in. If you find yourself always having to make excuses for your partner's behavior to friends and family, it's a warning that your partner is probably no good for you. On a related note, a bad day is a once or twice a month sort of occurrence, tops, not once or twice a week. The hardest lesson I've learned in life is how to recognize that a relationship is failing and let it go. There are a number of warning signs that I missed. We didn't laugh as much when we hung out. We didn't spend as much time together. We fought a lot. She seemed to care a lot less about the things I thought were important. And frankly, I probably stopped caring too much about the priorities in her life. All of this seems incredibly obvious in hindsight, but at the time it was all mixed up with a lot of really complicated emotions. We had been together for over 4 years at that point. Due to the circumstances of our relationship, I had to make a lot of sacrifices at the beginning stages that I felt on some level I was owed to be emotionally reimbursed for. Yes, I realize this is another huge red flag. One of the worst things you can do is carry on in a relationship with someone, romantic or even just a friendship, when it's not working. Ultimately, believe me, both parties will be happier without the relationship dragging both people down. Oh man, this hit close to home, right down to the sacrifices. I know it needs to end, but I don't have the emotional strength to do it. This one was difficult for me to learn, and painful to have to undo the damage. Bills. If you receive a bill, open it right away, look at it, have an idea of what you owe, and then pay it at a set time every month, or right away. Never let bills go unopened. I know I'm not the only one who ever did this, but I knew I was broke right now, so I'll let the bills pile up without looking at them. That earned me some late fees and put me in collections a couple times. Meanwhile, I was going to see movies or buying drinks, etc. It literally took 7 years to finally get the collections off my credit report. If someone wants to break up with you, let them. This wasn't something I've always lived by, but rather eventually became. I was the person that would want to hold on to the relationship, not because it was good for me or the other person, but because I was so afraid of being alone, I was the person who would bend and beg. I can change. We can work it out. Ad nauseam. I was and still am, in some ways, codependent. For a long time, I had zero self-esteem and about the same level of confidence in myself, my abilities, and my worth. I was constantly measuring my worth by what I thought others saw in me. Then one day, everything changed. It wasn't a slow process or something that crept up, but an epiphany. Why am I trying to hold on to someone who doesn't want me? I'm looking for a lifeboat, but I kept grabbing anchors. I told her, I'm done. Goodbye. She laughed, told me I would come crawling back, and to be fair, that is what I would have normally done. But a switch flipped and somehow, I went from needing someone to validate me to needing to be me. That was when I was in my 30s. I wish I would have learned to like myself sooner, but better late than never. The funny thing about that change in thought, it changed every aspect of my life. I'm so much happier in my 40s than I was in my 20s. I actually have someone in my life who adores me and I adore her. She's good for me. So for anyone who may be in the same boat I was in, even though you might not be able to see the shore, it's there. It's within your reach. Eventually, you're going to find out. You're a lot more important than you think you are. The change may be slow or it may be sudden, but be ready, because it's going to knock your socks off once you realize you deserve someone who wants you. Dude here, I spent 6 months of my life, when I was much younger, passing up nice girls' advances, because I had to get back with my ex who dumped me. Get in a relationship with an equal, not someone you put on a pedestal. In terms of a relationship, criticism. Too many people don't know the difference between airing your grievances in a healthy way and being critical in a negative sense. For example, I would appreciate it if we could trade off nights on who does the cooking, or I think that shirt might be better for another occasion, are fair criticisms. Saying you never cook, I'm not your mother, or you don't even try to dress up, you look sloppy is not productive and creates resentment. Good criticism always presents a solution or an opportunity to compromise. Bad criticism belittles the other person and shuts them down. No one likes thinking the person they love thinks very little of them. It hurts and destroys people's self-esteem, and that's hard to get back once it's gone. The clothing example is irrelevant. I was in a rush on mobile, but I'm glad I could help some people. This is something I've struggled with and it's made my relationships with everyone a lot better to recognize when I'm nitpicking or when I really have something to say. In addition to what you wrote, I would say that if your partner airs a grievance, you should pay attention to what they say. Don't just brush it off or minimize it, or say you'll take it on board but then forget about it. Take it seriously and work towards a solution or compromise. It's not really a warning sign, but make sure you maintain hobbies and friends outside of a relationship. The warning sign would be if your significant other is trying to isolate you from these things. If you're walking in the forest and you experience a rain of anything that is darker than it should be, look for smoke immediately. Pine needles almost black, a few flecks of dark or yellowed birch leaves. It's the first and only warning I had that a wildfire was coming my way. Something smell burning? See black stuff? Immediately look to the wind and the smoke. Get upwind, but do so by going parallel, then upwind. The fire is going to move faster than you imagine possible if there's any sort of wind, and don't assume someone else called it in. Call and run. Got the story next level down. Picture and fire safety tips. If you get offered a job and you have to make a payment toward the inventory you'll be selling before you start, it is a scam. Run. If you have to pay anything at all, you're a customer, not an employee. Freaking blue line marketing. I got an interview when I was desperate for a job, and when I got there I recognized the warning signs. I took the bus there but I walked the 10 miles home. If I wasn't getting a job out of it, I wasn't interested in paying the bus fare back. Of course they tried to hire me, but with no hourly wage or salary, only commission. You work at an hourly job, cashier, server, host, bartender, etc. And suddenly, what's this? Your hours are getting cut significantly and they hired another person or two? Take that as a warning sign that you're either A. going to get fired, or B. going to get so few hours that you'll want to find a new job to quit. And they can do that even if they promised you 25 hours, or whatever, per week. The employer can lie when hiring. It's only you that can't. If you lose contact with good friends because they don't keep in touch with you or make the effort, chances are they're thinking the same of you. The only thing I would add is that there are also friends that you exclusively stay in contact with. You are the one that calls. You are the one that talks to them. You are their shoulder. If you are in that situation, run. Friendships run both ways. If you are getting older and you have what looks like a pimple that isn't going away, or anything new on your skin that doesn't look quite right, see a dermatologist. Those small lesions don't hurt and you might not think they are that big of a deal. Go in. Basal cell skin cancer surgery can be extensive. We've also lost several friends to squamous cell skin cancer and melanoma. Put sunscreen especially around your ears and neck. People forget those areas. It seems a trivial thing to do day after day when you're younger, but future you will be so much better off. That moment when you decide to make just the minimum payment on your credit card. I didn't think it was a big deal at first, but it didn't take long for that nearly 30% interest to add up and the debt to become crushing. This was a long time ago and I worked my way out of it. The interest didn't start that high, but grew over time as I struggled to make payments. The other thing was that the credit card company kept increasing my limit even as my debt grew, and it was always presented like that was good news. Here's some trouble for you. Don't complain about your girlfriend to your family and friends. They will get a negative view on the girl right off the bat, and it will poison the relationship faster than you can imagine. I complained about my girlfriend to everyone I knew and never told them the good points about her until it was too late and the damage was done. In their eyes she was a bee who had me under her thumb. I couldn't scrub that away, but that's not the worst part. My mother had her on Facebook, and mom, bless her soul, started telling my girlfriend advice on how to be nicer. My girlfriend, now ex, wondered why my mother would think of her as a person who needed to be nicer. Cat was out of the bag. I'd screwed myself by talking about my girlfriend to everyone but the one that mattered, her. The flip side of that is to never judge anybody else's relationships by what they tell you. In my experience, people tend to vent their frustrations disproportionately, so I only end up hearing the bad stuff. The good stuff isn't vent-worthy, so it doesn't reach me. I'm not what most would consider older, but I will say that once you start finding yourself say yes when you want to say no, get used to a life without getting your needs met. If you want to move up in your company, you have to let your boss know you're interested. Don't be afraid to let your boss know you're interested in a higher position. However, don't demand or ask for it. Don't tell them you've been doing a good job and working hard. Just let them know you're interested in learning new skills and taking on more responsibility and don't want to stagnate. This is especially true for retail restaurant work. The reason the other busboy got trained to be a server or bartender and you didn't is because he let the bosses know he wanted to move up. If you spend more time helping your friend with their problems than you do actually hanging out and having fun together, then it may be time to reevaluate the friendship. This is doubly true if they don't offer you much in the way of support. Some people are emotional vampires who will totally disrupt your life if you let them. Never, ever, in a fight with your SO, ever use something they've told you in confidence or their biggest vulnerability against them in a fight. Ever. It is a nuke. It cannot be undone. It will erode the trust in your relationship by the first breath after being said, even if it doesn't kill the relationship instantly. How is this a warning sign? Many have asked. If someone does this to you, they are not trustworthy and need to be put into the not trustworthy people island of your life. Don't burn the bridge, but keep those mother suckers at bay and keep matches close just in case the bridge has to be torched. I second this. I've always remembered this analogy about emotional abuse in relationships. A personal insult is like putting a nail through a piece of wood. You can say sorry and take out the nail, but the hole is always going to be there. If you start getting blurry vision, have to pee a lot, always thirsty, lightheaded, go see a doctor. Symptoms of diabetes. Couple things. I'm not a doctor and certainly can't diagnose diabetes online. Only a doctor in person can do that with glucose tests. Second, I realize these are symptoms of tons of other things, but diabetes is very common and these are the most common symptoms. The important thing here is that if it's strange behaviors you need to see a doctor. If you ignore diabetes, it will get worse, and some of the things that can happen to your body are downright terrifying. I have type 2 and I'm scared shitless of what my later years could be like. Don't let it happen to you. If they catch it early enough, it can be reversed. People don't really change that much, except in extreme circumstances. Don't hang around, marry, work for someone who's okay but has some personality issues you really don't like, because you think they might change, or with my help, they'll change. Go in with the mindset that this is the person, as they are and probably will always be. If they're flaws, sometimes it's only one flaw, like abusive or aggressive behavior, currently outweigh their good qualities. It's best to drop that person now and not spend months or years or a lifetime in waiting misery. People change, but you can't change people. In your personal life, if you start to feel really anxious or insecure with someone you're dating, treat it as a warning, with the caveat that you're not an immature, jealous, crazy person. Those feelings can be a red flag that the person you're with isn't meeting your needs or that something else is amiss. With the caveat that you're not an immature, jealous, crazy person, or have depression, anxiety, OCD. OCD can manifest as obsessive thoughts where a seed is planted through your own accord and it spirals because you can't think of anything else. That's how I get paranoid. If your partner often accuses you of cheating, when you know you most certainly are not cheating, it just might be possible that your partner is cheating. If you try to ask your partner if they are cheating and they become instantly angry and make you feel bad for asking the question, it just might be possible that your partner is cheating on you. But the most important thing is not to waste your life trying to stay with the one right person for you. It's okay to break up if you've identified that you're not a good fit. Moving on hurts, but you owe it to your future self and your true soulmate, who's out there somewhere, to keep looking. Hope that helps. My crazy weird ex was constantly trying to catch me in a lie to prove I was cheating. I wasn't. Constantly accusing, being paranoid. Freaked out during fricking session because my fanny felt different, which obviously meant I was cheating. Yeah, he was a cheater. Cigarettes. The enjoyment, if there is any, will only be in the initial phase, and after that it's just a compulsive behavior. I wasn't even enjoying it and spent thousands of dollars on that crap. Finally made me gasp for breath at times. 207 days since I quit after multiple attempts. Better you don't go through this struggle. Getting into the negativity habit. It's always someone else's fault. Blaming others for any little thing that goes wrong. Eventually you start to look for opportunities to be offended and proven right. To the point where someone does something nice for you and you ruin it by trying to figure out their angle. Yes, some people will screw you over and some are rude and will take advantage of you. But most people are just neutral trying to live their life, and a lot of people are terrific. Now if someone is rude, I just think they must be having a bad day and let it go. True story. I had an old lady give me the finger at Costco. I was waiting for someone to back out of a stall. Backup lights were on, but I was blocking the old lady's chance to park in the handicapped stall on the other side of the row. She had to wait about 30 extra seconds, but was honking, so I moved forward and she pulled into her spot and gave me the finger. I parked and got out and she was getting out. I said, "Sorry, was waiting for person backing out." She yelled that I was blocking her. I said, "Sorry, you are having such a bad day." She couldn't avoid me enough in the store. If you're in the middle of some bad weather and the sky turns green, get to cover. There's likely a tornado forming nearby. I've been laid off twice in my life, and the first thing to go in both occasions was the coffee. The first time the coffee mysteriously went dried up, I hardly noticed. A month later was the first round of layoffs. After another 2 rounds, the company finally closed its doors. The second time the coffee went away, I started looking for a new job. That company eventually went through the same cycle and closed down. The second time I was long gone before the first round of layoffs. When the company you work for can't even afford something as cheap as coffee, it's time to start updating your resume. One of the worst things I see people do is get stuck in relationships. People lose years of their life to this crap. Do you like the person you are with? Do you want to marry them? Long-term relationship with them? Why not? Do you avoid your significant other? Do you constantly avoid topics so you won't fight? Why not? Is your private life where you want it to be? Is your social life? People never want to look at this stuff with critical eye. I got to our relationships and it blows my mind how many of these people need to GTFO of their situation. Don't waste years of your life being unhappy. If you realize you or your soul are not sharing their thoughts, emotions, daily goings on for fear of X, then things aren't right. First time I was an overbearing douche and she didn't want to tell me anything because I might get jealous. The second time it was because she was bipolar and couldn't handle anything difficult. She was bipolar, but that wasn't why she couldn't handle difficult things. It was because we didn't have a healthy relationship. Side to that, relationship failures are never one person's entirely. Both parties chose each other, both parties have to take at least some responsibility for the result. However, if it won't work, you're just as at fault for staying in it as they are. Young girls, if he isn't butthole to everyone except you, you are not a special butterfly that can bring out the good in him. It just hasn't been your turn yet. Wait, yes, this applies to young men as well. If she's a B to everyone except you, it's going to be your turn eventually, and applies to non-hetero relationships too. So everyone can stop calling me names for speaking from my own personal experience. Also, by wait I meant more just you wait and see, not like wait around till it happens. Obviously if you're dating an butthole of any gender, GTFO and try to do better next time. If you feel like your life is pointless, but not the type where you'd like to take it, but then too, you should see a psychologist for depressions. It might not be it, but living for a long time with depressions can really ruin a lot for you and make a recovery that much harder. Other things like lack of motivation, always feeling down should also be considered. Don't let depression ruin more than it have to. If you're ever on an ocean beach and the water quickly recedes for no apparent reason, get to high ground. There's a tsunami coming. This is oddly specific for a fairly rare event. If you want to put something minor off, that, my friends, is your alarm bell. Program yourselves now. Don't put that crap off. Go to phone up and change a delivery date, or pay a bill, or email your boss. I don't wanna do that now. I'll do it later. Alarm bells, mother. Because you will forget all about IT in about 6 seconds and then it will become a bigger problem that you still don't wanna deal with. So just do it and get used to it. My single biggest problem in life is being too generous. I've come here from the future to tell you that you're doing no one a favor by simply handing out. It's human nature to have difficulty being appreciative of something that required no work or effort. I grew up with very little. My mother stopped buying me food and clothes when I was 12. I had my first job at 13 and continued to have multiple jobs up to this point. I've been nothing but lucky in my life in terms of the jobs I've landed with so few credentials. I started feeling like I owed it to the universe that I give back. So I started giving rooms out for free to friends, and feeding people, and picking up every tab. Now, I've burned bridges with so many friends of mine because I grew resentful of their poor behaviors and attitudes while all I did was give and give and give. You need to cover your own butt first. Help people, yes, but make sure there are clear guidelines and protections so you don't build resentment and sit in your bed late at night calculating all the money you could have had you not given money to people who you felt were undeserving. My dad always taught me, never give or loan a friend money or possessions unless you're okay with never getting anything back. If you're in a situation where someone makes you uncomfortable, uneasy and you suddenly want to leave, leave. Listen to your instincts. Don't worry about being thought weird or rude. Just say, I'm sorry, I have to go if you think it's necessary and go. Act now. Apologize later if necessary. Instincts are there for a reason. Haha, that's a good one. I learned that early on and got notorious for saying I'll be right back and disappearing. Never had to apologize once. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.